I was having a conversation with a couple of my friends earlier in the week, and the topic of people buying things that they don't even need to impress people that they don't even like came up. So I just wanted to make a quick video on the 5 things that I think that most people should not go into debt to get. And the first thing that comes to mind is just credit cards in general, especially high interest credit cards. So if you've watched any of my previous videos and you've heard me talk about how I got into credit card debt in my 20s, I started college a little bit late. I was around 19 or 20. But as soon as I stepped foot on a college campus, I had access to a credit card, and which was not good for me at the time. I didn't have a lot of financial education, and I really didn't understand the concept of interest rates and APR and things of that nature. So I did what most young people do, especially when they're in college, is I racked up a ton of credit card debt. And I remember having an interest rate of up to 27% interest on my cards. I spent a lot of time in my 20s just getting myself out of debt. And so that's the number one thing that I always tell people when they talk to me about, hey, how do I get on track financially? Like, what are some things that I need to do? And the very first thing that I always tell people is if you have credit card debt, you have to address that. You have to address that credit card debt because the interest that they charge on those credit cards are usually some of the highest rates that you'll see across the board. And until you can get those cleared up, it's always going to keep you in a position where you're paying just enough to pay the monthly minimums, but just not enough to actually make any real impact on your balance. So that would be the very first thing. The second thing that I don't think people should go into debt doing, especially before they can afford it, is buying new cars. Now, a lot of people talk about how a new car depreciates extremely fast, and that's true. Most cars have their highest depreciation within the first 36 months of owning the car, which is why I usually go out and I buy a car that's around 3 to 4 years old anytime I get a new car, because the original owner eats most of that depreciation. But even with that said, a lot of us will get a job, we'll start making decent money. Then what we got to do? We got to go out, we got to buy a new car. Hope you can hear me with the rain here. But we'll go out and we'll buy a new car, and we'll have car payments, six, seven, $800 a month car payments. And then on top of that, you have to add the car insurance, and then you pay for gas and then maintenance and repairs. You can easily be around $1,000 a month just to drive a car. So what I usually tell people, my rule of thumb, and what I've tried to follow, especially over the last probably 8 to 10 years, is I tried not to have my car payment be more than 15% of my monthly take-home pay, my net. And that has generally allowed me to get in and out of cars. Now, I'm not saying that that's right, because just in a previous video, I did talk about how I put myself behind being able to invest in the market and really get to the bag a lot sooner, because I was using my money to buy cars every 12 to 18 months when I could have been using that money to actually invest in the market, and it would have paid off more in the end. So that's number two. The third thing is payday loans. So this was never anything that I got into, but a lot of my friends would go out and get payday loans, and these are some of the worst loans that you can get. I mean, you are paying up to 20% or higher interest rate to get an advance on your money. And to me, that's crazy. And one of the best ways to prevent you from having to go down this path is put a budget in place. Budgeting solves a lot of your problems. I know a lot of people hear, hey, you got to have a budget. What's your budget? And we'll probably just kind of blow that off because we're not really worried about that. We don't think it's that big of a deal. But I'm telling you, if you put a budget in place, like a solid budget that you follow, it'll take care of 90% of your financial issues. Now, of course, if your income is not enough to pay all of your bills, you can quickly identify that in your budget, and you can go through and you can start figuring out what are some things that I can remove from my budget to ensure that I have a surplus of cash at the end of the month instead of a deficit. And a lot of times what I'll tell people is get rid of your car. That's one of the biggest expenses that most people have. So whenever you put your budget together and you see that, all right, I'm over $300 every single month, so I got to use my credit card to supplement my monthly income so I can make it to the next month. But you have a car payment that's $600 that you can't afford, then that right there should tell you, get rid of the car. Get rid of the car. And a lot of people will have a lot of pride and they won't want to let it go because they're afraid of what other people might say. But I can tell you, when it comes to getting your financial health, your financial life in order, it doesn't really matter what anybody else says. Anybody outside of your four walls, your house, your family, doesn't matter what they say or what they think. You have to do what's best for you. Now, the fourth thing that I tell people to never do is go out and get title loans. So if you own your car, there are places that you can go and you can put up the title to your car and they'll give you a loan up to the value of your car. And again, this is another area where interest rates are insane, completely out of control. But yet again, people will go out and they will put their car up as collateral to get money. And then oftentimes what happens is they fall behind, they get delinquent on their payments. They end up getting their car repossessed by the title lender. So don't do that. There's no reason to go out and get that title loan. And it's kind of the same thing as with the payday loans, where if you put a budget in place, it prevents a lot of these high interest predator loans. I call them predator loans. It's ridiculous. And number 5 that I tell people not to do, and this is not really like borrowing money from like a traditional lender, but really what it is loaning money to family and friends. So one of the things that I always tell people is to never mix money with your personal friendships, because that's usually how friendships get ruined. So what I always tell people, right, if someone comes and they ask you for money, they ask you to borrow money, and their friends or their family, what I usually tell people is this: look, I'm not going to loan you the money. I'm going to actually give it to you. Number one, if you give it to them, there's no expectation of repayment. So it takes a lot of that awkwardness off the table and will prevent damaging a relationship. But you give them the money, but you also tell them, like, look, I'll give you this money as long as you never come and ask me again. And you tell them, because money is often one of the things that ruin friendships, ruin family, ruin relationship. You don't want to make sure that you're not mixing those two together. Now, when you get to a position to where you're able to help people, especially once you get to a financial spot where you're able to help people, you know, those conversations are a little bit different, right? Because I've got milestones that I want to get to. And once I get to that, I want to be able to help as many people as I can. But while I'm on my way there, I have to make sure that I stay focused and make sure that I'm doing what I need to do to hit my goals. But those are 5 things that I generally tell people, like, look, if you're looking to figure out where to start at financially and really starting to put your goals in place, these are 5 things that I just wouldn't do with my money, because they're going to set you back so far that you're going to always stay at ground zero. You're going to stay at ground zero. So what do you guys think? What do you think about the 5 things that I mentioned? Did any of those hit home? Let me know. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next video.